Sound check. Sound check. Am I yodeling?
Yodeling.
Checking the yodeling. No, you can't really yodel because then it will throw us off.
Oh.
Hi guys, we're just sound checking because we've had some weird issues with the sound on YouTube because of weird software update. So we're just doing a little check before we get started, just like we did last week. And it didn't really help last week, but we got it fixed anyways. How's it sounding, Paul?
Sounds fine.
Oh, Teresa says it sounds good. Thank you, Teresa. Woo!
Hey everybody!
Hey guys!
It's Happy Friday!
Happy Friday!
Happy Friday! Happy Friday!
We're ready to paint again with you this Friday night, and hopefully you all have a beverage of some sort, whether it's alcoholic or non-alcoholic.
I'm in the shadow.
Either way is good.
I'm in the shadow. Shadow.
We're pretty excited to do Zen Mist tonight. What's this one?
Zen Mist.
Designed by Paul. The lighting is really harsh on there. You can see the
Yeah, don't
gold.
look at the monitor. Look it down here.
No.
Yeah.
That one hasn't caught up yet.
No, remember there's a delay, and that monitor up there is really old and bad.
Yeah. So tell us about Zen Mist. What was your inspiration?
So the inspiration behind Zen Mist, I think we talked about it a little bit last week when we did the gold leaf.
I probably forgot, but...
Yeah, you must have. But part of it was just the challenge of you saying, hey, my painting was just blue, black, white, and metallic gold.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And you said, you have to do it that way. And it's like, okay. And you're like, no, I'm totally just like teasing. I'm teasing you. You can add a color if you want. I'm like, nope, you've already challenged me. So
He likes a challenge.
I do like a challenge. And actually, I really like painting with a very limited palette like this once in a while. It's really, in a way, it pushes you to do something a little bit more compositionally, because I think a lot of times when we paint, we have a tendency of relying on the colors for impact.
Yeah, definitely. I've done that before.
I know when I first...
Bahama blue.
yeah. I don't
What
understand what's
does that
going on. Is it pausing? It looks like we're still going. It's just we've got a poor connection, but I don't know what that is.
Because everyone's on YouTube right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I can go look and see really quick what's going on.
Okay.
Let me go look real quick and see what the settings say.
Okay. There's always something.
There's always something.
Maybe this room in our house is haunted.
I think
it's technologically haunted.
Somebody's trying to tell us to get away from using the software.
Yeah, that's me. I'm trying to tell you that.
I tried to order something earlier this week, and you're like, no.
Yeah. It probably depended on my mood and what the bank account looked like that day.
I mean, I really don't see anything.
Teresa says it's working for her. So we're going to go with it.
Yeah.
Right, Paul? It's working. So somebody, if for whatever reason it cuts out, post immediately so we know. I've got the computer in front of me so I can see your comments. And it's just, for some reason, it's giving me an error message on this computer, but I kind of take that with a grain of salt. It just says our stream status is poor, which usually means the connection is not so hot. Friday night, YouTube, we didn't used to have these problems on Monday nights. So, I don't know. It's a Friday night thing. Well, I'll talk real quick about what, he's coming around.
Yeah, I'm coming back.
I was going to tell people the supplies they need.
As long as it's working, it's working. It's like, I don't know, YouTube's been struggling lately. Do you remember last week it crashed completely? Yeah. Like,
we talked about that, I think.
Yeah.
It was that day. It wasn't the day before. It was the day before.
Day before. It was gone. So clearly there's maybe some issues. But anyway, so the inspiration on this
was the color challenge.
Was the color challenge for one. And then we have a photograph in our downstairs bathroom that's a Chinese fishing village.
That's right.
And I kind of want it. It's a lake, though, so it's not really a river. But I wanted to really kind of capture some of that real jagged, rivery kind of cliffs and stuff that they have in parts of China. And so there is a village. And actually, let me go over to the picture-in-picture and I can show you. And turn this back on. There we are. We'll be there for a little bit. I'll kind of show you what we got going on. Now, the village itself, it's just really one little fishing shack right here. And it's not something that is really that important. Like, if you really don't feel like you would like to paint the shack, you don't have to. But really, it's just a little scribble of...
shrieking shack.
Yeah, a little scribble of some brush... vertical brush strokes.
You were inspired by Bob Ross there because he always puts a little shack on his paintings.
He does. And then just a little swoopy roof is all I really did. And the main thing that was the dock, and that's kind of the.
I do like the balance that brings to the dark tree across the lake or river. Yeah. And to me, when I first saw this, I thought, oh, he was inspired by Columbia River Gorge.
Well, I mean, that's anytime you're painting a gorge, for those of us who live here.
Yeah,
in the
it's
Pacific
just the
Northwest.
jagged mountains are just different, and it has definitely the very Asian painting look to it.
Yeah.
So I like that.
The other thing is this painting is very much, when I was saying a lot of times we rely too heavily on color for the impact in the painting. This particular painting, we actually are relying on contrast and then perspective from desaturation.
It's amazing the perspective you get from desaturation. I'm just looking at it on the monitor because they look slightly different on there and just a little bit, maybe a tiny bit more faded, but not much.
Yeah.
And you definitely do get, it's amazing that you can do that. And that's something that it takes a while to learn. Like, I remember when I first started painting, I was painting everything in the same contrast and not really knowing what looked weird about it.
Well, and I
figured it out a while longer.
There's definitely some people that do that as their style.
Yeah, and that works a lot of times.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But at the same time, one of the things that we always fight in a landscape painting is giving the idea that something is far away.
Yeah.
And so many of the paintings that we do, even just in Vine Go, many of them that I've designed and stuff, we don't really get into this depth from perspective from desaturation of color too much.
We're going to get into it tonight.
We're going to get into it tonight.
Tell everybody what we need.
And the nice thing about doing it this way, because we really are only using, for the most part, blue and white, and everything has a little touch of black in it too. Just be careful when you use your black. You just want a tiniest little amount, but I'll show you how we do it. But we really, I lost my train of thought for a second. Oh, I know what I was saying. By using this kind of monochromatic technique, we're able to really explore this desaturation of color for contrast and stuff like that very efficiently, more than when we're trying to use other colors.
Yep.
So, anyway, what else we got?
The colors. I put the colors right in front here.
So we really just have we really only have 2 colors plus
same
black
colors
and
we
white.
used last
Same
week, but no
colors
gold leaf unless you have some left and you want to use it.
You know, and you absolutely could.
Yep.
But we're going to be using our phthalo blue, black, white, metallic gold. And the metallic gold is something that I used very, very sparingly.
Yeah, and you might, if you haven't put it on your palette yet, you might just wait to the end.
Yeah, it has a tendency of drying out pretty quickly.
It gets a skin on top, but you can like actually shift the whole skin aside. It's kind of weird. You can just like push the whole thing aside, and there you've got the fresh paint underneath.
Metallic paints are still one that I'm very much a traditionalist when it comes to painting, and metallic paints are something that I still kind of...
That's why I made you use it.
Wrinkle my nose out a little bit. It definitely has a place, but I didn't want to make it... It's really easy to overuse.
Yeah.
And so we just wanted to use a little bit for some sparkle.
Let's do a toast.
Let's do a toast. Let's toast
Friday
night.
Quarantine still.
Quarantining with our peeps via YouTube.
Yeah, and hopefully you guys have well, here, we'll drink.
No.
Cheers. Hopefully you guys have been able to paint some and explore our watercolor kit, which is new. Please try that out if you want. It's really fun. It
is a lot of fun. And both Jenny and I, we had to go into the studio today for a couple of pickups because we are doing pickups on Friday mornings.
Yeah, pickups on Friday mornings from 10 to 12.
Yeah. And while we were there, we each did a new painting for next month's subscription, and you shared it on...
I shared it on Instagram. It's a rooster on GoBox's Instagram. It's a rooster by me, and then the really pretty waterfall landscape by you.
Yeah, it's a little waterfall.
It's a little one.
Like a little trickly
little baby
waterfall. Yeah. Okay, so
Let's move this guy aside. You probably want to reference it. You want me to pop it over somewhere? I could put it over here.
I don't know.
Actually, no. You probably might want to grab it once in a while.
Yeah, just bring it here. I'll figure it out.
Okay.
Okay.
3 brushes.
3 brushes, yep.
Small, medium, and large.
Yep, we do. And actually, we do most of this painting. That's not a good place for that. Let me find a better place. Here we go. We do a lot of the paintings when I teach. We use our biggest brush primarily. And that's the case with this particular painting as well. And so what we're going to start out with, I'm going to grab the palette here. Now, I have a lot more color on my palette than you guys probably do because you're using the smaller bottles of paint. Next month you guys will be getting larger bottles.
Yeah.
But they're a 3-month supply, so be aware of that. But I'm going to start very carefully. I'm going to start with a little tiny bit of black. And Jenny, I'm going to make enough for you too. Well, I'm going to show you how we do it. Little tiny dot of black is all we need. Then I'm going to grab a little dip of blue. And then always from the side, whenever you dip into white, always
Don't poke it in the middle.
Don't poke it in the middle. And really...
Are you making the sky color?
I'm making the sky color. So what we're going to do is we're going to build the sky and the water first. And it really doesn't take very much blue or black to start with. There we go. That's probably pretty good. Right there. Real pale, like bad denim from the early 80s.
Sweet.
I guess that's not early 80s.
Mom
it's more like early 90s. Like post-acid wash.
Mom jeans.
Yeah. Silver tabs. Levi silver tabs. You know. Just think like Canadian tuxedo kind of color, and we're good to go.
Canadian tuxedo.
Haven't you ever heard that term?
No.
Yeah.
I always hear all the new terms from you.
Well, that's because I'm hip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this brush is, and you're going to have to figure out on your own. Our brush that we're using is 1 inch wide. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to just take my brush real quick. And I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. I'm going to come up 3 inches from the side. And I'm going to kind of do the same on the other side. It's just kind of a little quick measuring. And I'm going to go ahead and paint a line.
I've never seen you do this before.
Oh, I do this kind of stuff once in a while. It happens.
So we're doing the horizon line.
Yep. And so what we're going to do is when we paint this, one of the ways we differentiate the difference between the sky and the water is by, I'm going to turn that off, is by the texture, the brush stroke we use. Mm-hmm. So in the sky where we've got clouds and things that are wisping around, we want to use much more of a kind of flippy flappy. Now, I'm liking, because I've got a lot more blue in this than I'm going to want when we get done, I'm starting in my top corners, which is where I want the darkest amount of color to be. And I really try to get my brush going kind of in every direction. It's really easy for beginners to instinctively always go like this because that's the way your wrist wants to go. So we're going to try to avoid that. And I'm just going to kind of work around. We're going to have a little sun in the sky. So we're going to kind of work around that general area for now. And you want to move quick because this paint does dry fast. Oops. And once I've kind of just got it loosely roughed in like this, I'm going to start
You're just going around the edges kind of?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, leaving this center area right around here for the sun. Before this dries, I'm going to take just pure white. I'm not going to rinse my brush or anything. And this is where we kind of have to move fast because the paint does dry. We're in kind of a hot room in here right now.
Super.
And I'm just going to lighten this area up.
So we don't wash our brush?
Nope, no need to yet.
Okay, and just going to blend it together?
Yeah, just kind of feather it out.
Like it's a big bright cloud in the sky?
Yeah, I can tell already mine's going to end up a lot... if I'm not careful, it's going to end up a lot darker than the original, and I don't really want it to in this particular case.
Yeah, because you tend to, every time you teach, and I do it too, we make it like a higher contrast. It's so weird. It's like we put an Instagram filter on it mentally.
Yeah. So the other thing is if you kind of get going on this and it feels like, oh, the blue's just eating and absorbing the white, that's okay. You can always kind of come back later.
With white.
And kind of do like a quick little glaze over it. And that's really the beauty of working in this monochromatic style is you get that opportunity to make adjustments without having to match too much. Well, you really made a mess of our white paint.
Yeah, you didn't make quite enough, so I had to make some more paint. You made enough to do like a quarter of one canvas. I'll get some more paint.
Well, you made enough to do like 4 canvases, so I guess we're
gonna be feeding off this color.
Yep. Oops, I keep dripping on the table. All right. So really, you're not gonna get this sky perfectly smooth. We don't want to. Perfectly smooth is fun and everything, but it's really hard to do when we're using paints that dry quickly.
Sometimes I think with this type of landscape, perfectly smooth
doesn't look right. No,
it doesn't look right. It looks like it needs to be choppier. That's something actually I've been working really hard on, and especially today with the rooster painting I did. I was working hard at making my brush strokes really choppy and bold because I love that style. It's just not my typical style.
So what I'm doing right here is I'm trying to get this little area where the sun's going to be a little bit lighter, and I've got the blues just absorbing it.
Okay.
So I'm just going to kind of work on this a bit. How are we sounding out there, everybody? We sound good. We look good. I mean, Jenny always looks good, but is the video looking good?
Yeah, let us know if we're yodeling again.
Not that. That was me. I was joking.
Let us know if we sound like robots.
If we sound like Chewbacca at all, let us know. There goes my beer right through the screen. All right.
Take a drink, and we're going to move on to the next step.
That's right, we are. And so what we're going to do next, and I think I'm looking at the original. I think I had a little bit more black in our mix in the sky.
Could be.
But it's okay. I mean, that's up to you.
Don't streak your canvas with black right now.
No, don't. And
you know what you could do, Joe? You could mix a little black in this blue, just a tiny bit, and come around the edges.
Yeah, I don't want it to get too much darker,
like a vignette.
Though. Yeah, I don't want it to get too much darker, though, at least on mine.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys want to do that, you can do that for sure.
I wonder if I should click refresh on here.
No, that won't matter.
Won't do anything. We'll do some negative something.
Yeah, I wouldn't risk it.
Okay.
All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to work down now into our water, and we're just using the same colors. And for right now, we're going to change our brush strokes, though. So we went from doing all over to now we really want to just work side to side. And a lot of times people will do like a little flip. You don't have to. It's kind of hard to do. If you're doing it like we're doing it on a flat table, it's kind of harder to get that little flip motion. And honestly, with the big brush, when you're farther back towards the horizon, it's really hard to get that flip and have it look right because you really want it to be pretty tiny out there. So I'm just going to start.
What flip are you talking about?
It's like a little banana flip.
Oh, so like it looks like water current.
Yeah, but sometimes it's too much activity.
Well, in a small like this river doesn't look like it's a huge river, so it might not have that much.
Right.
Water current. For an ocean scene, you'd want to do the flip.
It's basically just a little.
So you're using the same color?
Yeah, just using the same color. And I'm kind of staying away from in line with where our kind of glow from the sun is going to be.
What do you mean?
So this area where the sun's going to be right here,
mm-hmm.
I'm leaving that alone.
In the water?
Yeah, and I'm kind of working on either side of that. Loosely.
So you're going to bring some white in later, probably.
Yeah, we're actually going to do that in just a second.
All right. I can read you like a book.
Well, it's not like you've never painted before. All right, and then I'm just going to take some pure white. Oops, I got some in the sky. Okay, no biggie.
So you don't wash your brush because you want the blue in there with the white. It's just going to lighten it up in the center.
The only time you'd want to wash your brush at this point is if the brush is starting to stick, and mine is starting to grab the canvas a little bit because the paint on the brush is starting to dry. What's Teresa say there?
Sasquatch, maybe. We need to add a Sasquatch to this.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good add-on idea. I actually did a hedgehog painting for kids that the video was posted, I think, yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, it goes through a period of time where it looks like a giant Sasquatch forehead, like it's just sticking up out of the flowers. And I thought, that would actually make a really fun painting.
Well, it looks like, our error message popped off there for a second. So I'm now, once I've got that all filled in, oh, you're still catching up.
I'm sorry.
Catch up. I'm just, once you get this lower part kind of roughed in like the way I've got it here, I'm just taking a little bit more white now in my sky in the area where my sun's going to be. I'm just kind of brushing out, not very much paint, just a little tiny bit, just kind of brushing out from there. It's okay if you see brush marks too. You know, a lot of times people are like, oh, it looks like a paintbrush did it. Well, you know, we're not Photoshop, we're painting. So
We want the brush strokes.
That's how we know we did it. Look at that, I did it myself. So yeah, I've definitely got a much more saturated color going on. Yours is too. Yours is more of a stormy.
I like stormy.
You've got a lot more of the
Oregonian feel.
I was going to say a lot more of the black.
Northwestern feel. I do like the grayish tone in it, though.
Yeah. One thing you can do too is what I just did is I took a little bit of water from the jar. Let me show you guys real quick. Put a little bit of water just on a spot right here, and I added some white, and the water's in the jar is going to be just the right color because that's all we've been using. And I just thin it down to be like heavy cream or something. And it doesn't take very much, but you can kind of...
You're wrecking it!
I know exactly what I'm doing. But you can kind of really easily take a little tiny bit of paint and get it to kind of glaze over.
So yeah, you're doing a glaze. That's why you did the water.
Yep. I felt like mine was a little too dark, and I didn't want it to be that dark.
Paul, you should do an oil painting tutorial sometime.
Oh boy, that would be fun.
Mm-hmm. Now that, you know, people are painting in their homes with Go Box, well, the oil paint prices are huge, but...
You know, we could do
oil painting.
On something like that, we could do...
water-based oils.
Yeah, but we could do, like, rather than trying to get the oil paints ourselves, we could do a material list and then a paid video.
True.
Where people just pay for the video, which is pretty easy to do on our website.
For those of you who've watched Bob Ross, that's what he uses. He uses a wet-on-wet technique with oils, which was actually very unusual for that period of time.
Yeah, and actually, we're going to kind of actually push right into this and do our own kind of version of wet-on-wet. So I'm not going to worry too much about whether the sky is dry or not. We're going to go ahead and move into it.
In here, we need a spray bottle.
Right.
I could go get one.
So I'm going to use... Now that I brought that lighter color in, I'm kind of going to go back to our first original base color, which was that denim color that I was talking about.
The late 90s denim.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a Saved by the Bell jacket color.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to start building up our furthest back little cliffs.
All right.
And so I'm going to figure out, okay, my sun's going to be right about here. And I want to move off to the right just a smidge, maybe a half an inch from that point. And I want to...
And wait, what color are you using?
Using that first base color that we used for the sky.
Okay.
So
yeah, the 90s denim blue dye. Okay.
Yeah, we just had this conversation.
We did.
And but mostly it's like
My
we want to
brain stepped out for a few minutes.
We just need to make sure it's a little bit darker than the sky. Just the tiniest little hint. And I'm going to just kind of take the brush and really... I like to pull down when I'm doing this kinds of shapes because it makes me think more of cliffs.
They're tall and pointy, kind of almost haystack rockish.
Kind of. Yours could be a little different if you want. And I'm not worrying about whether it kind of disappears into the sky or not. Mostly I just want it to show up a little bit, especially this back one. Just a whisper. Just a whisper. And I always prefer to continue it like I'm going to paint the whole thing.
And if your background is wet,
that's okay.
Bonus for you.
Yeah.
Mine is dry.
Yeah,
I wish it was more wet.
It blends into the background a little bit, and that actually helps us.
Did I make this about the right color?
It's close enough.
Need more blue, maybe?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
And this is something like Jenny just mixed up some other color, and you can kind of, if you're mixing as you go.
The right color, but there we go.
If you're mixing as you go, you can always just kind of add some little dabs in.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be all one color. In fact, it's kind of good if there's other variations of the same color in there, like lighter, darker, because it looks more natural.
Yep, little shadows and stuff. Now, the other thing I am going to do with this is a very Bob Ross-y technique, actually. I'm going to take a little bit of this color on my brush, and I'm just going to go to my horizon, the base of this little hill, and I'm just going to flick down. Barely touching the brush to the canvas, not very much paint.
A little shadow in the water.
Just giving it a little shadow in the water. Just a little flick down.
This painting actually makes me want to watch the rest of the Fellowship of the Ring.
You know, there's something about it. Yeah, I could see that.
It reminds me when they're in their boats going down the...
Yeah, there's definitely... Anytime you do like a misty kind of landscape, it almost feels fantasy-like.
Oh, misty eyes on the mountain.
What?
I was singing that one song by Ed Sheeran.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good song.
That's from The Hobbit.
No, I don't think it is.
Yeah.
That song is actually in The Hobbit. There's an Ed Sheeran song in The Hobbit.
Yeah.
Well, we've seen...
It's during the closing credits of the last one.
Nice. We've seen Lord of the Rings a gazillion times.
You know, the weird thing is during the...
But we just recently put it on for our daughter and watched the first...
I love those movies, and for some reason I always fall asleep.
The first 2-hour half, and we were just kind of too tired to start the next part.
Well, yeah, we have the extended director's cut, so it's a daunting task. Okay, so I did the one side, I'm going to go ahead and do the other side. I'm going to...
And we're going to have some hills overlapping this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. But we're going to worry about what we're working on right now, and then we'll worry about those hills in a minute.
I want to worry about them now.
I know. Stay with me, Jenny. Keep your focus right here, not there.
I'm trying.
All right, so I'm going to use the same color. And what I want to do is I'm going to go from the base, the point of this little hillside here. I'm going to move over about, maybe an inch, 3/4 of an inch to an inch. And what I really want to make sure I do here is have a different shape.
In a different height.
Yeah, well, the height can be about the same. You actually kind of want it to be similar in height, but not, you don't want to do a mirror image of it. And again, I'm just kind of filling in. And this can be pretty thin paint. It's okay if you see the sky through it a bit. And again, the same thing. I'm just going to kind of give it this little flick down. Mine is like the most boring looking one I've ever seen.
That's pretty boring.
Yeah, it's all right. I know how to fix it.
I gave my little tree shapes on it.
You could do that, but it also, when you do that, you take away your depth.
Really?
Yeah, because if you put detail, I mean, it looks awesome. I think that looks really cool. But the problem is when you do trees that big, as you just did, it'll make it look like it's not very far away.
Are you dissing my painting?
I am.
You've always been better at landscapes than me.
I'm not saying it to be mean. I'm just saying that's.
Oh, you're horrible.
That's what will happen with your painting. Is it takes away.
What if I try and prove you wrong?
Make a tree that's 4 miles away look like it's 4 miles away by detailing it.
These are not detailed trees. Not even remotely. It's the shaggy texture.
See, but look, this one right here. That's got tree shapes.
Oh, yeah. Whatever, Paul.
Guess we know who doesn't follow directions very well. All right. So, we like to give each other a little bit of grief. It's kind of what we do.
Mm-hmm. Constantly.
It's usually one-sided, but that's okay. All right. So the next thing we're going to do, and this painting actually, it's amazing to me. And you'll see it. What?
Mine's just really straight up and down now.
Oh, that's okay. Yours is going to have a totally different vibe. I can tell already.
Does that shock you?
No, and that's okay because everybody paints different. So it's not realistic to expect everybody's paintings to be the same. Mainly, you've painted yours a lot bigger to begin with. So that's fine.
Big and bold.
But anyway, what I was gonna say is, when I painted this painting, it comes together really fast. Mm-hmm. Like it's actually shocking how fast it comes together at the beginning. So that base color we were using, just gonna mix up a little bit more. Little tiny bit of black to keep it from being too bright blue. The blue is a nice blue, but it's really intense. But I'm going to add just a touch more black and a touch more blue. Kind of going more like dress denim.
Just denim?
Dress denim.
Dress denim?
You know, like fancy pants, casual office denim.
Is there such a thing?
Yeah, there is.
I gotta look up some of these terms you're throwing out tonight about denim.
I'm surprised you didn't know that there's such a thing as dress denim.
I was just thinking about those suits that like Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears wore several years ago.
Think like dark, super dark, almost dirty blue David Beckham denim.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess so. Whatever.
Yeah. Just because you've never heard of it doesn't mean it's silly.
No, I just think it's funny that you know them all the time.
I'm a man. I have to pay attention to these things. I mean, I gotta wear the right jeans. I don't want to be the guy that shows up in, like, acid wash. Acid wash, by the way, Jenny, was a type of way that they used to wash the jeans before they sold them in the 90s.
I remember that. Good Lord.
Actually, 80s. Okay, I'm just checking.
Now you're just being a jerk.
I am. All right, cool. So this next thing we're doing is we're doing a little bit darker color. And we're going to work on this next closer hillside on the right. Now, let me bring the original in here. This original painting really just has 2 layers of hills and then kind of this foreground little, and it's actually supposed to be like a bamboo forest. Mm-hmm. And then we've got this one little bonsai tree here. So what we're doing next is we're just going this little bit darker color, and I am going to move down from this point here. I'm going to move down about 1/2 inch and to the right about 1.5 inches or so. And that's going to be where our
biggest brush
still. That's going to be where we touch the...
You mixed up a really enormous amount of paint here. It's
actually not that much paint.
That's what I was saying. I was being sarcastic.
Wow, you're hard to teach with.
I'm the guy with the coffee cup.
Now this one we can kind of turn our brush and put some hints of some trees. And all I'm just doing is just some little jaggedy jags. And we're just going to block this in. I'm really going to kind of... Let me show you guys one cool thing we can do here. A lot of times it's really hard to understand exactly how we treat where the water and the land interact with each other. Mm-hmm. And the way I found that works best is to turn my brush sideways like this and just kind of scribble
back and forth. Darn it, I ran out of paint.
No, make some more. You're a big girl.
What color is it? Black and blue and a little white and water?
You don't need water. Mm. Mostly black and white with just a little bit of blue. There we go. Yeah, this can be a little bit more of the black and white than the blue. And that makes for a... We don't want it to look blue-blue.
It's like a slate gray.
Yeah, it is kind of a slate gray. We don't want it to be super intensely blue. We don't want somebody to look at your painting and go, "Wow, that's blue." You know, we want
them to look at it and go, "Wow, that's slate."
That's exactly what we want them to say.
This does really remind me of Columbia Gorge.
Well, you know, all gorges are kind of that look.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, we are probably going back to Skamania Lodge. They are opening next weekend. And we're not going to go back that soon, but we are most likely going back in either mid-June or mid-July, depending on what the orders are for the amount of students and all that. So look for us up there.
Yeah, it's always
classes again.
Always kind of interesting balancing. Oh, well, I shouldn't say always. It's not like this is something we're always dealing with.
Yeah, right.
But we are definitely having to balance what 2 different states' orders are.
Yeah. Yep, indeed.
Well, kind of. It's not like our state has to check with their state. We just need to make sure that we're on board with what Washington.
Because we're doing business in both states.
Yeah, but that's not. Yeah. I'm actually going to lighten mine up just a bit. And all I'm doing is just taking a little bit of white and just kind of mixing it into the fresh paint. Oh, I've got a spot where it's starting to lift. So what happens sometimes is when you paint too soon, your brush will start to lift the paint off the canvas. And we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. And usually our instinct is to grab more paint and try to add more paint. And what it does is it just causes more paint to lift, more paint to lift, more paint to lift. So as soon as you see that, you'll see it. It happens. It's pretty obvious when it happens. All of a sudden, it's like your paint disappears. And all you got to do is just leave it alone. Fight that urge.
For a few minutes.
Yeah, just leave it alone for a few minutes.
Let it get sticky.
As I know that urge is to come back and do something to it, like to add more paint. Oh, I got to put more paint. There's not enough paint. Paint's got to come off. And it really is best if you just kind of let it sit, let it be.
Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Let me see how well you lightened yours up. Okay.
Mine could still be a little lighter.
Yeah, you've actually got this misty thing going on here where you can take and brush a little white in there.
But I'm going to wait for it to dry because I've got that paint lifting thing going on. So.
I love it when you see hills like this in a gorge and you've got the fog between each one. It looks so cool. It's one of those things that, like, you get out your phone and take a picture. No matter what high quality camera you use, it's never going to get it exactly right as it looks to the human eye.
Yep. Exactly. All right, so the next one we're going to do is we're going to do this one that's on the left-hand side. And I'm just looking at the time. I'm going to add just a little bit more black to that existing blue.
I'm tired.
And I want to move down from this point another ½ inch or so. And I want to move way over so we're back a couple inches from where this point starts. So, yeah, no, actually, I'm sorry. This goes over a little bit further. So it's actually kind of in between where these two are and down just a smidge.
So it'll kind of look like the river is sort of meandering through.
Yep, exactly. And so we're going to do the same thing. Just kind of create our shape. Now this one's not going to go as tall as the one in the background. And in fact, what I did when I did the painting, the original painting, is I turned my brush on edge. And I kind of just did our little wiggle trees, our echoes. And all I do is just touch the brush and just kind of wiggle my way down here. And go a little higher here and there. Just to give the impression that maybe there's some fuzzy trees on the top here. Oops, you know what? We forgot to do the reflection of this one. We'll do that in just a second. So like the two in the background, we want to just give this a quick little flick down. This painting actually, to me, has a really watercolory kind of look to it too.
Yeah, you can see that. You can do it for the next watercolor kit.
Yeah, well, a lot of the, for some reason, I don't know what the deal is, but a lot of the paintings I've been doing lately have this kind of watercolory kind of vibe to them.
It's your secret calling.
Might be. No, I'm not going to get too involved in that. I'll do a watercolor one of these days. You got it. Again, this painting comes together really fast. I mean, we're only half an hour into painting, maybe not even that long. We've kind of, you could literally just about put a
signature on it.
Yeah, you could in some ways. I feel like there's some areas that need some more TLC, but I've certainly seen less complicated stuff before.
With like a $3,000 price tag.
Yeah. You know, it's been a while since I've had an Apocalypse IPA. It kind of kicks you in the teeth a little bit.
What does that mean? That you're getting drunk?
No, it's just got a real hoppy flavor. Not that that's a bad thing.
Yeah, we were talking. We went in the studio today and kind of grabbed some stuff from the fridge. We haven't been ordering any beverage because there's been no need. We can't sell it or anything. And we were like, we should just place an order just for ourselves.
We could.
Everything's pretty bare.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and lighten this area up that I've got. This hillside. It's a little bit too dark. I maybe don't want to lighten up where it hits the sky and everything. I can see I've already got way more detail in it than I did in the original. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I can always give myself permission that it's okay. Anyway, so I'm just mixed up a little bit of our regular color that we've been using. Just a little bit more white added to it. And you can leave little spots of the dark. That looks better. And this is, again, forgot to do my little reflection. So I'm just going to get a little bit of color on my brush. Get a little bit of this reflection here.
And that's going to be glazed over with some white anyways, right? So it looks a little more...
What is?
The reflection will be glazed over
Yeah,
with the white.
Well, maybe.
A little bit.
Maybe. It might.
Mine's going to be...
I like it, Jenny. I don't care what Paul's teaching. I'm doing it my way.
Hey, that's what you always do to me.
It's true.
If you guys have noticed, we
All's
get
fair
done.
All's fair in love and war.
We get done, and it's like Paul is a different painting.
I don't think that's necessarily always true. So this area right here, I'm looking in the monitor and I'm seeing it shows up really weird.
You can't look in there because it makes
No,
everything...
I'm looking at the lower one too.
Oh, okay.
We've got 3 monitors.
Yeah, that one up there makes it look like everything's cobalt blue.
Yeah, we're going to have to invest in a better monitor. Speaking of which...
No.
If you guys are watching, click like.
Yes, do.
Please click like. That's how we get more people to see our videos, and that's how we
can continue to do it.
Can continue to do more videos.
With new monitors.
Yeah. Well, they're not terribly expensive.
No.
So this little spot right here is one of those spots where the paint started lifting a little bit.
Yeah, I had that issue right in the exact same spot.
And you know, I've noticed, and you've probably noticed this too, it's like sometimes we'll get a batch of canvas in and it'll seem like that particular batch is more prone to that than others.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
I've noticed that too. It's like maybe there's some kind of spot that has a weird coating on it or something.
Something.
Or sometimes certain canvas, the tooth of the canvas will be real aggressive.
I'm just going to leave that alone for a little while because there's nothing I do right now is wanting to do anything to that. So it's just one of those things. You just got to roll with it, live with it, be okay with it for now, and realize you can always fix it later. Okay, so I've definitely got mine. Is definitely got a lot more of the blue. Yours is a lot more of a, I don't know, for some reason, we're using the same colors, but for some reason yours looks more stormy.
It's because I'm magic.
It's magic in your gathering, I guess. I don't know. All right, so the next thing we want to do is this is actually kind of a newer technique I've been using. I used it on the new painting I did today too, where I create black in the foreground and I let that black creep up back into the middle ground a little bit, but I want to fade it out. I don't want it to stay harsh. I want it to kind of just gradually disappear. So we are going to use black. We're going to use our medium-sized brush now. You can use your biggest brush if you want, but I think this technique works better with the medium-sized brush. And actually, the honest truth, which it's silly when somebody says the honest truth, because the truth is honest, and honesty is truth, right?
You're getting too deep.
Yeah. Woo! Anyway, the reality is you can use whichever brush you want to use at any given time.
Yeah.
And I think that's
whatever feels right in your hand at the time.
It's funny because I know when we've taught at the studio and people say, what brush should we be using? And I know there's been a couple of times where after the 75th time of hearing which brush, I've said, well, just whichever one feels good in your hand. And people are like, that's a cop-out. And it's like, well, no, that's actually the real answer. When I tell you which size brush, that's the cop-out. So I prefer for this, from this point forward, I'm going to be using the medium-sized brush personally.
Yeah, and whether it's flat or round, it doesn't matter. They all accomplish the same overall goal.
Yeah. So to me, when I'm looking at a painting like this, I feel like this is our underpainting, and that this is where we start layering in elements that finish the painting off. And I mean, like I said earlier, I mean, we really could at this point in time sign it and put a frame on it, and it would be something interesting on the wall.
It would.
And I think that's sometimes we get into this mode of having to feel like we have to put all these extra little elements to make a painting interesting to look at, but we don't usually. Sometimes we can be more simplistic. Okay, before we get going too far though, I want to go ahead. I think it's time to put our sun in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
So to do the sun, I'm going to use this paintbrush right here.
Your finger.
My index finger. I'm going to get a little tiny bit of paint on the tip of my index finger, just like so. And just right about here, just going to swirl a little circle in. About the size of a dime or a nickel. I think it's really, and it doesn't have to be perfect.
That's a pretty damn big nickel.
Maybe
Yours is like a silver dollar.
That is not. I've got
It's a quarter.
I've got my coin jar right here. Hold on.
It's a quarter. No, it's all right. We don't need to go there. It's a quarter.
It's a quarter. I think it's yeah, and it's kind of oblong. It's getting bigger.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. And it's okay if it's a little bit off. Perfectly round. I mean, it's.
We're looking at it through the mist.
We're looking at it through the mist. It's low on the horizon. The horizon always, the atmosphere always distorts things.
We'll just throw out some excuses.
It's the truth. All right. So mine's a little bit bigger than I did in the original, but that's okay. I do think it's one of those things that it's really easy to get carried away and do too big of a moon or a sun.
I actually kind of like it when they're low on the horizon. A lot of times they are really big.
Mm-hmm. They can be,
mm-hmm.
And it's really easy to.
Wait, is this the sun?
It could be either.
Yeah.
It almost feels like moon.
Yeah.
It's up for interpretation.
Okay, sounds good.
Anyway, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to start working on our little shoreline where our little village pagoda tradition. Actually, what I looked up was traditional Korean rural houses.
Wow, right there on the river. That's cool.
Well, I didn't see any right on the river, but that's what I looked up for the shape of the house.
Okay. Show us how to do it.
I'm not going to worry about the house yet. But we're just setting up its little nook. So I'm going to start with just pure black on my medium-sized brush.
Yeah, let's show this real quick so people know what they're going to be doing.
Well, yes, we're painting this foreground here.
Right in here, so it's kind of like the land part.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
No dock, no house yet.
Nope. We're just putting in the shoreline. And really what's kind of neat you can do, and I've been doing this on a lot of paintings lately, is when you kind of come across, you can kind of be kind of sketchy. Leave some pockets.
Sketchy.
Yep. You don't have to be solid, is what I'm saying. And just like I was talking about earlier, you can kind of scribble side to side. And what I want to do is I want to come up maybe about an inch on the right-hand side. I'm going to wipe my brush off. And I'm just going to pick up the paint that's on the canvas. And just let it fade out as we go up along the shoreline here. The letting it fade out is really kind of a key part here. We don't want to get too carried away.
So as it gets further from our view, we want it to be more faded.
Yep. We want it to feel like it blends into this background.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to worry about going up over here because we've got the bamboo that's going to hang out there. And so we've got that nice little fade. And you can see what that does is it really puts into perspective that this is close and that this is close here and that this is far away.
Sounds good.
So, okay. Now, I do want to make sure here. Get that a little closer to the bottom edge there. Okay. Now, the next thing I want to do is, it's not the next thing I want to do, it's the next thing we are going to do. I'm going to go ahead and make our little dock. And to do the dock, I'm just going to take black
Are you using your medium brush for that?
Yeah. Using medium brush.
I'll try using my small one.
You can use whatever brush you want to use. You can use the big one. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint a horizontal line. And it goes like so.
This is it kind of looks like maybe it's like a broken down dock.
Not necessarily.
Sorry, I was just insulting your dog.
It's just rustic.
It's an impressionist dog.
Well, it's not highly detailed.
Yeah. That's good, actually. This kind of painting is good for me because I tend to highly detail things. So it's good practice for me.
Yeah, and I'm just going to put a little piling right on the end there. I'm going to move over to the right a little bit, and I'm going to do one that's a little bit lower. Like so.
Okay.
And then I'm just going to kind of create a couple extras along the way.
This reminds me a little bit like you did this with your Beacon Rock paintings. There's like a broken down old, what used to be...
There's like pier, like pilings.
It's like it used to be a pier or a dock that they don't use anymore, so all you see left are the pilings.
You know what I think those might be is from those old fish traps.
Oh, that could be.
You know what I'm talking about? They had those big, huge traps that would catch
Didn't
fish.
they have that like in Moppin too?
No.
No. For some reason I thought they did.
You're thinking of the native fishing docks.
Do they still do that there?
Yeah, but I'm talking about the big, huge, look like water wheels that would catch the fish and dump them.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it decimated the salmon population.
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
Just they caught too many?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they got banned. Anyway, I'm going to also...
How long ago was that?
It was a long time ago. Do you remember when we went to the interpretive center and talked about that?
Vaguely.
Now I'm going to
You
go...
remember things better than I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
It's true.
I'm going to go ahead and put a couple more little pilings in the water. And all a piling is just a little vertical little dash here and there. Just little like...
So you used to work on a marina. How do they put these down in the...
I don't know how they used to do it, but I know like now they use these giant, like, they attach to a crane and it's a big heavy weight.
It's like pounds them in like a giant hammer.
Yeah. So I'm going to do my reflection in the water too here, and I want to just lighten that color up a little bit with some
Water.
blue.
Oh, blue. What did you do back here?
Just did a couple little vertical little marks just to, you see them?
Mm-hmm.
Just to give the suggestion that there's other,
Pilings?
well, just other human stuff going on along there. It's like basically
Human stuff.
Human stuff. It's basically like a little suggestion of some detail without...
They're Sasquatches.
Yeah, no, they're not Sasquatches. But what it's doing is it's satisfying the part of our brain that wants detail.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not always the easiest thing to satisfy. Because instinctively, we want detail.
Yep.
Where's our detail? Just a little bit of detail. Wow, we're only an hour in, Jenny. Hope everybody's keeping up.
Yeah, and keep in mind, I know I say this every video, but for people just now tuning in, you can pause the video if you need to catch up on anything.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you need to grab your hairdryer and dry a certain part of your painting. If so, pause us, and then go ahead and do that and catch right back up. Maybe you need a refill on your beverage.
I do.
Yeah, I do too. What do you want? I can
No,
go
I'm
grab-
good.
Okay.
I've got water. I actually want water.
Yeah, me too. Luckily, I brought us both water.
Our little office is small and it's got a lot of lights and a big computer and 3 computer monitors, and it gets warm.
It's funny when we walk out when we're done. It's like a full-on like 10 degrees difference.
It's like, who left the door open? Oh, it's not. It's
I see the AC's on out here.
I need a shower. All right. So I'm going to check this little spot. I'm going to fix this in a bit when we kind of add some more detail in. Because what I would like to do, I always say that. It's the dumbest thing to say. Because what we're going to do, I think we should, no, what we're going to do is I'm going to add just, let's actually add our bamboo.
Yeah, let's do it.
So the bamboo, I'm going to use my medium-sized brush. And I'm going to mix together blue and black about equal parts. Maybe a tiny little dash of white. I want it to be really dark. Like real midnight blue kind of color.
For the stems?
No, for the foliage.
Okay.
And just right in this little pocket, and it's just going to kind of taper down to about here. I'm just going to kind of start dabbing. And at first, I'm just doing this color.
And this is supposed to be timber bamboo, which is really tall compared to the pilings, and it grows very tall. We have a stand of it in our backyard. It's huge. They use it for scaffolding.
Well, some of the varieties grow up to 100 feet.
Yeah.
So
it is very tall, and it does grow like tree-like foliage on the top. And I mean, all the way down some, but it really does get it nice and full on the top.
So what I'm doing is I'm kind of having it taper off so it feels like it's disappearing into the distance here. Just kind of creating a little layer. And I'm really dabbing the brush. A little dab and shimmy. I'm still using the first amount of paint. And what I've done is I kind of went across and I created the top part of the canopy. And then I'm going to wipe my brush off and I'm just going to dab into that. And just kind of start dabbing that color down from there. That's how we kind of get a little bit of a foggy kind of vibe.
Foggy vibe.
Now the other thing that we can do, and I like to do this on this painting, because I've painted it so many other times. I've only painted it once. But I like to take this same color and let me just mix up a little bit more. Make enough for Jenny.
Thanks. I'm amazed at what small amounts of paint you mix. But then when I see your paintings, I get it.
And you can just I'm kind of just creating some little smudgy.
What do we got going on over here?
Just some texture. So it's just
more shrubs and trees maybe
No,
back here?
it's just like, it doesn't matter. It's more, I actually think of it more as being shadows on the rock.
Oh. Well, that makes a difference in how I use my brush.
Well, it can be trees and stuff. That's the main thing is, this is one of those things where...
Oh, we have excellent now.
We're back to excellent. It's not so much what
Excellent.
we're painting.
Oh, now we're back to poor stream status.
All right, focus.
I'm trying.
It's not so much what we're painting as what we're putting, like what the finished effect is.
Got it.
So it has nothing to. It doesn't matter if it's trees or shadows
It's
on the
things.
cliff. It's just adding texture so it's not flat.
See.
So I think a lot of times what happens is if I were to say, okay, we're doing trees, is then people want to paint specific little trees, and that's not what we're shooting for.
Bro, you putting it up there too?
Just a little bit. This looks like one of those things that doesn't necessarily look great up close, but when you see it, when you step back and see it from a distance, it makes it feel more real. Because what happens is we paint too flat.
Nobody should be viewing your painting up close. If they are, you need to smack them.
Social distancing from my canvas.
Paintings are meant to be viewed from a distance. Always. If anyone's looking up close, like I said, you just push them on back.
Yeah, and the thing is that like this little bit of checkery kind of texture It really isn't anything. It's just texture so that we know it's not just flat. And so often, like I said, we paint too much just flat. Like we have this tendency of like we mix the color and we mix all the variation out of it and then we put it on there solid and then we have hard rigid lines. Now you've done a good job. You've kind of got some solid colors, but they're very soft along the edges. So it kind of, yours is way misty looking. Actually, I'm going to steal yours. Let me show you. Jenny's is really misty looking. Completely different looking.
That's funny. I can't see yours in person because of the glare from the LED light. But when you just changed it on the monitor, I did realize how different they are. A little more misty.
Yeah, you have a very much more vertical feeling to yours.
Because you said that I made my mountains in the back too tall.
I didn't say they were too tall. They're just taller.
I like it.
I do too.
I need to add the Eye of Sauron in there.
Go for it. I feel like I just did a little bit too much of this dark color, but you know, maybe let's not worry about it. Yeah. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to take a little bit of this dark color that we just used and
do it.
This side over here where I was having that little bit of trouble. Trouble. Just going to kind of brush some of this in here. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah, definitely not as misty.
That's okay.
That's okay.
I can be the misty one. I'm the moody one.
That's what some of us call it.
Many moods.
It's kind of like the weather in Oregon. If you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes.
Actually, I have been loving the weather. I am a total... So this is the term for people who like rain. The term is called a pluviophile. And I am such a pluviophile. I love rain. But I love it when it's green outside and rainy. So spring rain or early summer rain, like what we've got right now. When it's really green. And like November rain is not as good. I don't like that as much.
Oh, I do. And keep in mind, I work outside in it during the week, so...
Well, I mean, I like November rain, but I don't like it as much as I like the summer rain.
How dare you? November Rain is one of the best songs ever.
In the cold November rain. I do love that song.
All right. So the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to switch now to our smallest brush. And we're going to use a little bit of black. And because I want to put some real quick little... Actually, before we do black, let's do equal parts black and blue.
Hey, we totally did this without the instructions sheet.
That's all right.
Usually we have it in here in a reference.
And I'm just going to start... Yeah, it's harder for me to teach that way.
Yeah, it can sometimes be a distraction because when you're painting live, you do it different time ways.
When I don't think that the people, when they're watching the video, are probably using the instruction sheet.
Probably not.
Anyway, so I'm just going to do some vertical little lines. I got a little bit too much blue in mine. Just for the bamboo shoots.
Ugh, I keep yawning.
You must be bored.
I'm super bored. Just kidding. So these bamboo shoots grow really rigid.
These ones do, yeah. They don't go straight up, though.
They don't? They sometimes lean at the top, don't they?
Well, they kind of tend to lean in all different directions.
They're pretty cool, though. Like, we use them... We had to cut down some that were, like, half dead. They were dead at the top, but not at the bottom, so we knew,
They're dead.
They're dead, yeah. They're gonna be fully dead. So we cut them down and use them for borders on the garden. And they look
fencing
so good.
to keep the dog out of the garden and things like that.
Our younger dog is a digger, so we definitely had to build a little fence around the garden or he would be digging up all the veggies.
So I'm also taking a little bit of this darker color and just going to kind of blot some in along where they transition.
I literally can't see yours. Okay.
Yeah, for some reason that light's really casting a shadow of your head on my canvas.
You can never run from me.
I can tell you're finished.
I'm always there. Finish, big head.
So I'm just blotting in a little bit of extra dark on the underside of this canopy here. And it's just really just a blot, 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 smudge, smudge, smudge. It's really nothing very fancy. Again, it's something that you're going to be seeing from a distance. It's not something you're looking at up close. So putting a bunch of detail into this, it just doesn't make sense. It's just a waste of time and effort.
But our natural brains want to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Our tendency is to do that.
You know, it's funny. One time I was teaching a class many years ago, and we were teaching Mini Moon, and we were teaching just a basic, kind of my typical kind of landscape painting. I don't even remember what it was. It might have even been like, no, I don't remember what it was. But it was very much just a traditional type of landscape. Mm-hmm. And one of the students said to me afterwards, she's like, "That was so hard. It's so abstract." And the funny thing was, there was absolutely nothing about the painting that was abstract. But I understood what she meant, and that is, painting in like an impressionist style, for example, is an abstract way of thinking for most people. Mm-hmm. Because we think in shapes.
But in Impressionism, you're thinking in suggestions of shapes.
Yeah, suggestion. And I actually wish they called Impressionism Suggestionism.
That actually would be really good.
Like, somebody should go back and say, let's rewrite these books. They're suggestionists.
You know what art term that I hate because it doesn't really say what it is post-Impressionism. That's what Van Gogh's style was. It's like, What is post-Impressionism?
Well, it's a spin on Impressionism. Because, like, if you think about, like, Van Gogh, his paintings weren't, like, impressionist in the way that Monet was.
Right.
But they were, again, suggestions of something that really existed. Mm-hmm. So I think, like, Van Gogh, in a way, he doesn't really fit into surrealism either. Mm-mm. So I think post-impressionism, I actually, off the top of my head, I think, like, Edvard Munch would be another post-impressionist.
I think his is actually considered expressionism.
Okay. Yeah, that could be.
So many terms.
Yeah, it's hard to know. And the thing is, back in the 1800s, there really were schools of thought.
And cliquey ways of painting.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there were, there was Monet had a big group of guys that he hung out with and painted with, and Van Gogh had a few that he associated with, and
yeah, the one is the Sacre Bleu.
Yeah.
I always forget his name. He was really short. He was like had some form of dwarfism. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah. Matisse?
No. I can look it up.
It's driving me nuts because I read that book. Mm-hmm. Well, most of that book. Starts with a T. Yeah. Anyway, and then in the United States there was a group called the Hudson River Painters.
And that was what's his name that you love?
Well, Bierstadt was not really a part of that, but he was one of the guys who influenced it. Frederick Church, who's probably in my top 5. Yeah. Was probably the most prominent of the Hudson Valley painters. And actually the Hudson Valley, most of the painters that were part of that group got jobs with the U.S. Geological Survey. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, so most of them were then hired by the U.S. Geological Survey to travel the country during the Geological Survey of the 1800s and do paintings. And you'll find many of their paintings in galleries and places like that. And there's like a lot of them are, the first paintings of Yellowstone and Yosemite and other wonderful landscapes
Cool.
But Bierstadt was definitely, his style is very in keeping with that. Then you had the Dutch painters. Now the Dutch painters were interesting. They really focused on big skies. Remember those?
Was it Toulouse-Lautrec?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah. I think so.
Okay.
I don't know.
Right. Sorry, I'm changing. I'm still stuck on that too. Yeah.
We're in Jenny's ping pong world right now.
And yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Henri Toulouse-Lautrec. He's the one who was that guy. Wikipedia. So he had some form of short man syndrome.
That's terrible.
Well, he was very small. He did have something.
He had a form of dwarfism. Let's keep it simple.
Like taller dwarfism.
Okay, let's move on. All right, so we're gonna work now on our. Do we have a scrap?
Probably. What you need? Ooh.
Just something to do I'll
Let me
just
find you.
do it on paper.
Oh yeah, do the paper underneath.
We're gonna talk about our bonsai tree. And we're going to use our smallest brush for the bonsai tree. But the real simple thing about bonsai trees is they can be really quite simple. I'm going to put this up so you can see it. It's really small on the canvas. Wow. It's so much difference in color. I'm not saying I like the new one worse or better, but I kind of like the old one better.
That's almost unavoidable. Mm-hmm. It's funny. You just can't get it exactly the same. Anyone. Yeah. It's really hard.
But the simplicity of this particular bonsai tree is because it is so small, we don't need to do a lot of work. And the main concept we're going to be shooting for is when a bonsai, when they shape them, and obviously this is supposed to replicate like a natural bonsai, not necessarily manicured, but the manicured ones are designed to replicate what's found in nature. So, but what they go for is kind of a pyramid, triangular type top, and a little bit of curve to the branch. Now, this particular one has just the main trunk that forks once, and then has a little side branch. So let me draw that on the paper here so it's big enough for you to see. I'm just going to grab some blue paint here. And so I like to start off by doing my canopy. So I'm going to go for just kind of dab, 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 dab. Again, I'm kind of going for a triangular shape. I want to leave some good little gaps. I don't want to fill it in solid. I want to leave areas.
So you're doing the foliage first.
Yeah. I want to leave areas so that you can see through.
Okay.
And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to continue this line out. Just do one more.
Little tufts.
Yeah, here's our little hillside coming down. And then I really like to kind of start off to the right side. And then kind of curve it up.
Yeah, because they are really aggressively curved like that.
Yeah, they can be for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe put another little branch here, but only one. And then you actually don't even need to do one, but then I like to kind of do one off to the side like that. This maybe needs a little bit more foliage on it. Actually,
I see a lot of trees like that at the beach where the wind has blown them to look like that.
Yeah, well, that's what inspired the bonsais originally, was the windswept trees. Yeah, for sure.
Imagine that.
What do you think about, like, so much of what we do with landscaping and stuff in gardens is to replicate what we see in nature? At least in a lot of styles of landscaping. Obviously, English gardening is not that way.
Mm-hmm.
But Japanese gardening in particular is very much trying to replicate
nature.
Like
they'll do dry creek beds and things like that.
Well, and they do forced perspective in a lot of... They'll use, like, larger shrubs in the foreground and smaller ones in the background, so it looks like you're much deeper.
I love that.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do our little bonsai tree. And you know what? If you want to, grab a little piece of paper or something and practice this once if you want to. Never hurts. I am going to mix up
black and blue,
a little bit of white. I want it to basically be really close to the same color as my little hillside here.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit more blue if you want to, just to kind of make it pop. But all right, so I'm going to start off. I'm going to actually have mine right about here. And I really just kind of dab and touch. And this whole thing's only maybe an inch tall. And it's okay, even like I've seen, like I've got mine where it looks like my foliage is going to be down below the base of my trunk.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. I mean, they grow that way sometimes. So I'm going to kind of curve it out. Back up. Maybe put a little Y there. And I always like to try to think of like the base. That's not my best bonsai tree I've ever painted, but it works. I always try to think of the base as really being almost like a claw that's grabbing onto a rock. You know what I'm actually going to do? So I don't love the way mine looks right now, but I think if I'm going to make mine a little bit bigger.
I can hear birds outside. Late evening birds.
And you might want to mix a little bit of water with your paint while you do this.
What are you doing?
Just in general.
Oh, you made it a little taller.
Yeah, it just was feeling a little disjointed. There, I'll just live with it like that. Now I try to get mine to overlap more than one object. So in this case, that's kind of where I kind of got a little bit squirrely, as I was trying to get it to overlap into the sky a little bit more than it needed to.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, when I say it's a little bit squirrely, I'm totally fine with how it turned out.
I'm totally fine with how it turned out too.
But we really don't need to do a lot in terms of foliage and stuff like that. A lot of times people try to do too much with the bonsai trees. Yeah, we're almost done.
We have to do the shack.
We do. We have... What time is it?
We are at 8:50.
Okay. So we're just a little over an hour and a half in, or not even an hour and a half in. All right, so we're going to do our little shack, and I am going to use my medium-sized brush. You can use your smaller brush if you want to get the shape right. No, it's okay.
No, I just want to show that you made the roof. You kind of have it so it kind of curves up, so it looks very Asian.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, what I started off with is you start with your smallest brush or your medium brush. I kind of like to use the medium brush, and I'm just gonna kind of do a little scoop like this. It's like an upside down bird.
Mm-hmm.
The way we paint birds. And then I just kind of take some black. That's all
it
we're
could be
using.
just like a little prayer temple shrine or whatever.
It could be. It could be whatever you want it to be.
The Shrieking Shack.
I made mine a little bit bigger this time. So it's going to have our little like upside down V that's curved, and it's going to have a little roof that goes to the right.
And it's just black.
Yeah, it's just black. I do put some gold on the roof to kind of have the roof kind of stand out. But it's really just, it's not even, I don't want anybody to really look at it and be like, oh, there's a shack there.
Yeah.
You know, it's there to be something, but it doesn't need, it's not supposed to be a real key element of this painting. So super simple. We'll let that dry for a few minutes, and we'll work on some. We're gonna switch to working with the gold. Actually, before we do the gold, let's take our medium brush, give it a really good rinse. Really good rinse, really good wash off on the towel. And we're just going to use some pure white now. And what we're going to do is we're going to create some shimmer in the water and maybe a little bit of surface interaction. Now, I'm not a big fan of doing a lot of shoreline. Like Bob Ross always does a lot of shoreline.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a huge fan of doing very much of that. A little bit in the closer foreground is fine. But so much of the time when you look across like the Columbia River Gorge, you don't see like a white line along the shore. You just know that it just changes. So, but I'm going to take a little bit of white, my medium-sized brush. And first of all, what I want to do is I'm going to come down from my sun.
Because it's the one creating this.
Yeah. Got to be careful. I got to work in right underneath my little tree here.
Or it could be a moon.
Or moon, whatever you want to think it is.
Mine, I feel like is a moon.
Okay.
Because of how dark my painting is, probably.
Now, the reflection of this is not going to overlap into our land reflection, so it's going to pick up on the other side. And as I work my way further down, I'm going to push down on the brush a little bit more, get a little fatter brush strokes. And I really like to kind of streak this over. Like I'm being pretty heavy down in line with the little moon or sun, whichever you look like it to be. But then I kind of really loosely let it kind of trickle over into the lighter parts of blue. And when you start getting over into, I'm going to change brushes real quick. Switch over to my smallest brush. Because when I get over towards these little shadows and stuff, I can actually add some really thin, fine little extensions that streak over. You can add a little bit of water to your brush when you do this. Now, when I was talking about surface interactions with the water and stuff like that, basically what that is just a little ripple. I'm going to pretend that there's, oh, that's a little bit big, but that's okay. A little bit of surface interaction right here. It's just a little side to side, little scribble. Don't want to do too much. We don't want it to get too carried away. That one's a little bit big, but that's okay. Falling asleep over there, Jenny?
Mm-hmm. No, I'm trying to force myself not to over detail.
Yeah, that's hard to do, and that's where a lot of times this little surface ripple becomes too much detail.
Yeah.
So I do think that it's good probably to put a little bit, maybe at the base of some of these little pilings. A little bit at the end of our dock here. But we don't want to do very much because again it gets too busy, and part of the beauty I think of this painting is the soft, not busy feeling of it.
I've had that song in my head all night now.
Which one?
The oh misty something. The Ed Sheeran. actually really like that song.
I learned how to play that on guitar recently. It's actually not, it sounds like it's hard, but it's not. All right. So we're going to clean our medium-sized brush.
Okay.
And we are going to now use a little bit of gold to just... Now, what I use the gold for in this particular painting is instead of using a lighter color for highlighting rocks and stuff like that, I just decided let's just use the gold and the shimmer of the gold to be our highlights. And so I'm looking at... This is too far away to really see much. We want that to stay soft and not detailed. Same thing with this one. This one right here is more in line with the sun, so it's going to be more silhouetted. But this hillside over here and the little bit of the bamboo here, even into the shoreline, there's opportunities there for the sun to hit there. And there we can do some highlights. So
do it.
I'm going to start. I'm just going to take some gold. Now the gold is weird because depending on the angle you're sitting at, you'll either really see it or you really won't.
Yeah, if you tilt your canvas around, you'll...
And so my suggestion is...
Get a little sparkly show.
Yeah, be very modest to begin with. And then you can always add more. But a lot of times you get a little carried... It's really easy to get carried away with the gold because you're not seeing it as strongly. But I'm just going to start... See, I can really see it the way I'm sitting.
You can always dip your brush in the paint and then wipe it off on the palette or the towel.
Exactly.
So that you start off with very little. And probably think about it like it's the highlight from the moon.
That's what I just said.
Oh, sorry. I just like to repeat your great instructions.
I'm just adding some hints.
Oh, my stomach just made a really... It was thinking about the pizza that you made tonight.
Turned out good.
I know, I got like one tiny sliver, and then we started over to you. So I'm going to eat some more late night dinner.
So just a little hint along this edge here. You can do some little bits, like maybe on the sides of trees up here. But again, we don't want to get too carried away. We don't want this thing to be glowing too much. It would be curious. I did get that one sample of iridescent paint once. I thought that would be really cool to do for a moon shimmer.
Yeah, there's mica powder you can buy to mix in with paint. We've got a whole box full of it behind you.
You can mix it. I would rather.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
I'd rather just buy the pre-made iridescent. All right. So the other thing I want to do is I'm going to really kind of get some of this gold going in our bamboo. And just like I did before, I'm just kind of starting at the top of the canopy. And I'm working my way down. I don't want to get the whole thing. I just want to kind of kiss the tops of this. Just a little smoochy smooch. You put a little bit along your shoreline. Just there's a little bit of light hitting in this area right here maybe.
Did I tell you about the paint challenge I came up for us in the new space?
No.
With all those ripply wood floors.
Oh, geez.
I thought it'd be really funny to put roller skates on. And
how's that a paint challenge?
you have to roller skate back to your palette for every color change you make. And you have the brush in hand, but your palette's all the way across the floor and you're timed.
That sounds like a terrible idea. That sounds like a lot of paint getting spilled on those 100-year-old
Beautiful
wood floors.
fur floors. Maybe we do tempera paint. It's washable.
Well, so is the acrylic if you do it right, but I do want to give just a little nudge right along over here. Just a little tiny bit. Just to balance it. a little bit more on there than I wanted to, but hey, we'll roll with it. Yeah, that works. I'm content.
I know, I gave us so much gold on our palette, and I realized we're only using like a 16th of that amount.
If that.
Oops.
1/32. Now, if you want to, you could take a little bit of this gold on your smaller brush. And you could maybe add some little highlights on your bamboo too.
Oh yeah, on the trunks of the bamboo. But
Yeah.
you also did something to your cabin thing.
Yeah, I'm not quite there yet.
Okay. I'm gonna try.
Patience, Jenny, patience. We'll get there.
Oops, I dripped a glop of water on my canvas.
I mean, you can highlight anything on this with it. If you wanted to do your dock, you could. I'm going to do a little bit on my dock. Actually, I really like that on the dock.
Did you do it on the top or just... Oh, you did it on the top, yeah. I like that.
Nice thing about when you're doing the highlighting of the gold on the black is like, if you don't like it, just paint the black back over. So I am going to put a little bit of gold on the left-hand side of the building. Just a smidge. Don't want to get too much. And really, this is... I'm going to define this curve, this roof line, with our gold. If you want to take the time, if you want to detail this little pagoda-looking little house a little bit more, by all means, pull up a picture, find one on Pinterest or something.
I'm giving mine a chimney with smoke.
Yeah, I just put a lot more detail into my little pagoda than I needed to, but oh well. And then once you're done with that, guess what? We're actually done.
Sweet!
So, the last thing to do is to sign it. And you know, I think gold.
Oh yeah, the gold would be good.
I think I actually, the original one, I actually bust out some bright red, but I'm going to do gold. Just do my initials. I'm going to turn our other camera back on real quick.
Oh, okie dokie.
And then we'll talk a little bit about some other things.
Okay.
Are you putting a coat back on?
Yeah. I got to, still, I guess, and calm.
You hit a wall.
I did hit a wall tonight. I don't know. The pollen has been making me super tired.
All right, let's go back to our zoom setting here. Let's turn. Oh, there we are.
There we are.
So anyway, guys, we're all done. Actually, let's go back to our picture-in-picture mode here, and there. We're back here. Let's see how Jenny's turned out. Jenny, I think, is about to fall asleep.
I am about to fall asleep.
She is zoggy. So I'll slide mine out of the way. Let's see if we can get both in there. Nope.
So I just put, like, the main thing, I have a bit more mist, but I gave the pagoda a little chimney with smoke.
I'm actually really proud of you. It's so...
Finally!
I'm always proud of you, but it's really rare for you to be this fuzzy.
I know. I've worked really hard to be that way.
Yeah.
With this one.
And that is something that I think is a really good... I guess I gotta talk to the camera, not you. being fuzzy and soft with your painting is something that I think is really an important skill to learn, especially when we're doing landscapes. It's what makes... Oh, and your little bonsai tree turned out really good too. It's what gives us that misty feel. It's what gives us... You know, the real world is when you look at things... When you look at a city, you see hard edges, but when you look in nature, you don't typically see hard edges.
Especially if there's fog.
Yeah, or any kind of atmosphere.
Whatever this place is, I want to go there.
Yeah, I'd like to take my kayak there. I got a little carried away with my pagoda thing. The doors.
Yours is a palace.
The door is a little wonky. And, anyway, so there we have it, guys. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Or anytime, I guess. Yeah. Whenever you end up joining us, that'll be awesome. Make sure you click like on the video. Again, that's how that's how YouTube decides other people need to see our videos, and when other people get to see our videos, they decide, hey, I want to support them, and so that's how we keep our business going, is partly by having you guys like our videos,
and
dropping us a comment, subscribe.
Yeah, drop a comment. Put on some suggestions of things you'd like to paint, because we're always just kind of coming up with ideas out of our head.
You know what? Should I go grab the new paintings?
Yeah, do you know where they are?
Yeah.
They're on top of the tank in there. Okay.
I'll be right back.
He's going to grab the paintings for next month, which we just finished today. And real quick, I'll kind of just go over again. This next month, you're going to be getting... Your paint's going to come in a lot bigger bottles. You're going to be getting 2-ounce bottles, which... We've been sending, I think they're 5 milliliter bottles. They're really small. And so these 2-ounce bottles should last you for 3 months worth of projects, but let us know if that's not quite the case. And we'll figure that out.
Well, we will be getting, that'll be enough to do 3 months.
Yeah, because we're going to also send the 5 milliliter bottles with a supplemental color. Like next month, it's raw sienna will come with this in the smaller bottle.
Yeah, so I think typically when we send the paints out, we're sending out less than an ounce of paint.
Yes.
Actually, it's probably like a half an ounce.
I think they're half-ounce bottles, but
yeah.
it ends up being like you can't fill them all the way to the top because of that weird little neck thing and stuff. So
you're really getting about 4 times as much paint, if not more.
Yeah.
And so 3 months supply, and then if you feel like, hey, I got it, and I'd like more, we are going to have it available to purchase on the website. So if you like, I want more white, we'll get more, and eventually I think we'll probably have larger bottles too. So
let's show what we're doing next month.
Okay, let me go picture in picture again.
So Paul designed a pretty landscape that has a little waterfall on it. Looks very northwest. That was inspired by a painting we saw when we were down at a restaurant in Yachats.
Very loosely.
Loosely. The only thing, like, that painting didn't have any kind of water source in it at all. It just had, like, this golden... The whole bottom was this. The golden field. And then it had the dark trees against the sky. And that was really the only thing. But I love what you came up with. Those rocks in the bottom. Those will be interesting to paint. I always have trouble painting those.
She's scared of these rocks, and she shouldn't be. Because like this is like my new favorite thing to do in water paintings. It's so easy to do once you understand what we're doing. I think the thing is it's really just unlocking the mind and not thinking about, oh, I'm painting little rocks and stuff, and just think of it just the blotches.
Yeah.
And then Jenny, meanwhile, somehow we complementary colored each other.
I'm always gonna do something different. I tend to be like, any animal paintings are usually done by me. So
we got a rooster.
Yep, we're doing a rooster, and so we'll have the classic landscape with the kind of more whimsical, colorful rooster, and that'll be really fun. I'm excited for that. It was easy to put together, and I love the colors in both of them.
Yep, and then they actually kind of, I guess I don't have the blue and the same blue quite aggressively, but both of these paintings were painted just with those. We did start with the new colors.
And raw sienna.
Plus raw sienna. So next month you'll be getting those 5 colors, and you will be getting the smaller bottle of the raw sienna, and that's how we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
And so I think even, let me do this. We've even got
little label.
Got our own little labels on there. So anyway, cool. So anyway, that's something we're really excited about. Let's go zoom again. Here we go. Okay. Sorry, I got my little control panel over here. I called my cell phone.
Does that make you feel powerful?
It does. It makes me feel extremely powerful. I control what everybody gets to see. So anyway, guys, thanks so much for dropping in. If you are stumbling across us and... Whoa, did we just lose our feed?
No.
Oh, that was weird.
I'm on here.
Oh, maybe that's where yeah, never mind. If you're stumbling across us and you really enjoyed what you saw and you want to support us, you know what? Head over to our website, gobox.com, goghbox.com, and pick up a kit. Otherwise, you can head to Patreon and find us on Patreon and subscribe. I still owe Rachel Sipp a shout out again this week.
Yeah,
so
nice. Thanks, Rachel.
She is our one and only supporter on Patreon.
Right now, one of these days we'll look back and be like, wow, remember Rachel Sipp, and now we've got like 100 supporters.
If you don't know what Patreon is, it's basically it's a website that allows creative people, artists, musicians, and places like that an opportunity to showcase what they do. There are a lot of workshops and types of things on there, and
it's like they share their art, and you're kind of just saying thank you with a small donation.
Yeah, pretty much. And eventually, once we've been on there a little while, we'll be able to sell some merch.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so that'll be kind of cool. And what else am I missing?
Nothing. It's time for us to have pizza and one more glass of wine. You guys relax, keep painting, keep joining up with us and watching our videos. And
stay safe.
Stay safe, and we'll see you soon, hopefully. Hopefully we'll be able to open pretty soon and keep doing this. We've been doing this since September, and we love it.
I just saw today that Clackamas County is going into phase 1 of reopening, I think, next week.
Wow.
So I think Multnomah and Washington counties are the only two counties that have not begun the process.
They'll be last because they're large and had a higher spread of virus. So
yeah. So
well, you guys have a great night. I'm ready to go have...
You're about to fall asleep, I can tell.
I am about to fall asleep.
You hit a wall about 25 minutes ago. You're
I did. Wine makes me tired.
Yeah. All right.
Always.
All right, guys. Take care. We'll see you next time. And keep an eye out for anything new we might be coming up.
Yep. We'll see ya.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Push that button right there.